give it some gas. Transmission shifts smooth, pickup's fine. These things aren't quick. Whoop. Howdy, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over the 97 D1 Land Rover Discovery that I featured before. We did a couple DIY fixes on it, but I finally, with aid from one of our mechanics, got this thing running right. And for that reason, and kind of the issues we ran into while we were troubleshooting this rig, I wanted to go over, like we did with the Black 88, reasons why and to buy a D1 Discovery, and some things to look out for in the buying process. You know, as the Land Rover market kind of continues on a slow, steady upward trend as far as things people are looking for and values for these trucks, you know, after the classics kind of went, I don't know, bananas, I guess, as far as values and whatnot go. You know, people are always going to start looking down for the next bit of value in the market as well. And first generation Land Rover Discoveries, so what that's like 89-ish to 98 or 97, something like that. At least for the U.S. import spec. Not a lot of two doors or anything were imported in the U.S. So usually looking at like 94 to 97 4-liter V8 4x4 discos, and that's what we're going to go look at today. All right, so this 97 disco, I probably bought it about 4 or 5 months ago. The owner said that it was having had issues with a leaky water pump and possible a sticky thermostat, which is why it failed inspection. We replaced both. I botched the water pump installation. I didn't get all the gasket off, so I had Tyler, one of our mechanics, fix that. And after that, we pressure tested the system. I found a couple leaks in the cooling hoses, and after that, it was running great. And really no other major issues besides that it needs tires and it probably needs brakes. But that kind of brings me to, you know, what you should start looking at if you are in the market to buy one of these. Like I said in the other video, comparing this to a classic, they're super similar. It's almost the same frame. You know, there's a slight difference in some of the differentials, transfer case and whatnot. But other than that, there's a whole lot of similarities, and they are neat little rigs. I'm not, again, a complete expert on these trucks, but you know, when you're going to go look at one of these, there's just some key factors to kind of point on if you're buying either for a trail rig or for a value type purchase. All right, D1s. Slightly different angle than on the classic for the hood. So D1s are notoriously have issues with overheating. Every single D1 except for the red 97 that we purchased, it had some type of overheating related issue, problem, or, you know, suspected fault, which is why these are cheap. If you look on Craigslist Facebook Marketplace right now, I guarantee that 60% of the sub $2,000 discos that you're going to find have some type of heating, overheating, water pump leaking, gets hot after 30-minute, blah, 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 upper tapping noise or something related to the cooling system on these trucks. Sometimes it is a head gasket. Sometimes it's just improperly diagnosed cooling system issues, which can be remedied easily by someone who knows what they're doing. You know, properly checking for leaks, pressurizing the system, doing a head gasket check. All really important things that you want to keep in mind when dealing with these trucks. The 4-liter is slightly more, I think, robust and reliable than the later renditions of this setup. Like the 4.6, you don't have so much cylinder liner slippage and whatnot. That's a whole nother video, and I'm not super technically versed on the exact reasons why that happened. But if you look around, most of them have a lot of up top end or bottom end noise and have some issues upon startup for reliability. So again, if you're looking at one of these, make sure you start it up, make sure you let it run for at least 20 minutes while you're talking to whoever's got it, just to make sure there's no overheating issues. Drive it around, don't just get in and go. Again, there's a lot of hidden issues. Sometimes, you know, they take a little bit longer to pop up, but you know, it's not super hard to diagnose, but just something to kind of think about, you know, when you're looking at these. All right, well, because I'm me, I put the motor issues ahead of potential rust issues, because, you know, I'd rather drive around the truck with slightly more rust than not drive it at all because of overheating issues. So that's just me, personal preference. So let's talk about rust. All right, in the D1, they do suffer from the same rust spots and rust-related issues that the Classics do. This one's pretty good. I didn't see anything glaring body mount or undercarriage-wise in the front. You know, you want to look under these fenders here. You got a little bit in the floor area, but not bad for a Northeast truck. So someplace to check. You want to move around back, kind of look under the sills here, and yep, that is rusty. That doesn't look great, but you know, it's more importantly, you want to check the body mounts and everything and make sure that they're solid. So this one looks pretty good. The frame looks great on this truck. Looks like you got a newer center muffler in there. Nothing's leaking too bad, but you know, it's all there, it's all complete. You know, sills can be replaced. They don't look terrible. At least with this truck, got a little bit of rust in there. That's to be expected. These have rust issues on the back of the frame. This one, you know, a little bit of surface, but nothing terrible. Looks like you got a little bit of moisture in the back there. The body mounts look solid, so hell, that's all I care about. This isn't ever going to be a show truck, so you know, something to think of when you're tooling around looking at these things. This side looks pretty good as well. So overall, not too bad on the undercarriage for this particular truck. Kind of right there, a little bit starting, but not terrible. And then up here, you know, obviously there's probably some stuff that was not draining properly or sticking, which kind of caused that to happen. But, you know, as far as the floors and everything and the body mounts are concerned, it looks pretty decent. So, you know, that's your 30-second walk around on what to do when you're looking at a disco. As far as the two important things: make sure it's not overheating, and make sure it's not structurally rusty. All right, next thing you want to do, obviously, is start it up. This one starts up fine, no crazy noises or anything. The anti-lock light stays on under 5 miles an hour. You want to make sure you don't have any brake lights. Kind of press the pedal, look around, make sure that light bulbs aren't pulled out. You know, you want to make sure everything actually illuminates. With the Three Amigos issues that a lot of these trucks have, there's a lot of guys that pull the lights out, which, you know, is understandable, but that kind of shows that there was other previous issues. You want to, and then listen to it. I mean, this sounds great. No ticks or hums. It's quiet. If I close the hood, you know, you could barely even almost hear that it was running, which is what you want. Oh, before I forget, you know, when you're thinking about the overheating, head gaskets, cylinder liner issues, you want to check and make sure that after the truck warms up, that you're not getting a whole lot of white smoke spraying out of the back. This truck's cold, so you're gonna have a little bit of steam blowing out of the exhaust, but after it heats up, that should be clear. You know, you always want to check when you're driving as well. Look behind you when you get on the gas and see if that's coming out at all. All right, another big disco issue is leaking sunroofs. For some reason, you know, the market in the early late 90s dictated that Americans wanted these dual sunroof set up in the trucks, which I'm sure was great back in the day, but they all leak. They all will get in and ruin the headliner, and that moisture leaks down in the door sills and the floors, which causes additional rust. So if you've got sunroofs on a disco you're looking at, make sure you check it. Most owners have them sealed up. I sealed this one up, and if not, get it sealed up, and then look for, obviously, rust that could have been caused by the leaky sunroofs. All right, when you're back in the truck, another important check is to make sure the heat works. You could have, a blocked off heater core. I know my 97, the heater core is blocked off. The coolant hoses coming from the radiator are cut and the lines are plugged, which obviously probably means that there's a bad heater core, or there was an issue causing some type of smell. So, when you have the heat on, try it in all the modes. Sniff around, make sure you don't have a smell of coolant in the cabin. If you do, you most likely have a bad heater core. I know sometimes you'll see a little bit of white leftover dried coolant residue, if that is an issue, but just kind of something to kind of keep in mind when you're looking around. And then, like I said, with the sunroofs, inspect the headliner, make sure it's okay. This one's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be, but it was leaking. And actually it stopped after I sealed it up, but I'll have to clean this headliner up a little bit because there's a little bit of remnants from not standing water, but the moisture over the years that was in here. All right, we're gonna go for a quick spin around the block and test out some of the mechanical functions of the transfer case. Just something you want to do when you're looking at one of these to buy. Want to make sure everything's functioning. Drop it in neutral, keep your foot on the brake. What is this, a disco? So you go over, push it up, put it in low. Make sure it's in there, put it back into drive. And then you should notice a higher gear ratio. Should have a little bit more pickup, probably a couple jerky shifts like we just did right there. But besides a slight whine from the transfer case, which is pretty normal when you're in a low ratio, that was perfect. Didn't have to shove it too hard. That's actually the first time I've actually put that in a low gear, so just kind of wanted to make sure and get the feel for it. I don't really mess with disco transfer cases all that much, so we're gonna pop it out. You want to do it on a loose surface. It's okay for a couple seconds if you're running it on pavement, but if you're going to do some testing or turn the wheels in any direction, you want to make sure you have it in a loose surface, just so you don't bind anything up. All right, so test the brake pedal feel. Usually they're decently firm. This one's a little soft. You could probably use some new fluid, but the lights don't come on as far as any of the warning lights. Give it some gas. Transmission shifts smooth, pickup's fine. These things aren't quick. Whoop. That wasn't good. Oh, there it is. Interesting. So there you go. Make sure you got it locked into gear so it doesn't pop out. I'm gonna go around and try it again to make sure that wasn't an actual issue. All right, we're gonna try this again. Yeah, I didn't have the knob all the way locked in, so under load it just popped out there a little bit. But like I was saying, these aren't quick. It's a very smooth acceleration. Make sure you check for any type of jerky transmission noises or anything like that. And again, the ZF transmission of these I think are pretty robust. Even my 88, which I've never touched, still shifts almost seamlessly. So this one shouldn't be all that different. Test out the brakes again. Stops evenly, it doesn't pull either way, and I'm pretty happy with, again, how this particular one drives. The drivetrain's pretty tight. Usually motor mounts aren't really an issue in this, or I'd say, do a load test on the motor mounts. Put it in drive, have a buddy pop the hood and see if the motor shifts around with your foot on the brake. But this one seems pretty solid. No significant clunks when you're shifting into park, reverse, neutral, blah, blah, blah. When you go on and off throttle, there's no clunks. So most likely the driveline has the proper amount of grease and all the Zerx fittings and whatnot. So, overall, it's just basic car stuff. We went over the rust, we went over the head gasket and the cooling issues. So if you stay cognizant of those things when you're checking these out, and you give it a good test drive, you should be fine. Everything's pretty easy to replace. If you're handy, you can do the head gaskets, and these are a deal. But if you're not, then you're going to be stuck in a pretty expensive situation. All right, so to wrap this up, should you buy a Land Rover Discovery? The answer is yes, under these circumstances. One, it's a D1, so you're looking at 94 to 97. Two, minimal rust. Again, these all have 150,000 miles on them, which puts their values usually about the same. If they are not compromised with rust, they're usually a decent bargain. And three, if it's not have any heating or cooling issues, again, just make sure you check the oil, make sure it's not milky. It could be, if it's the cooling system, not the head gasket, you might be able to fix a few things and get away pretty cheap. If you do run it and it does overheat and the oil's milky and there's mixing of coolant and oil, you might have an issue or a head gasket related thing, and then it spirals. So do your due diligence, check these things out. They are kind of going up in value. They aren't a Range Rover Classic, but they're very comparable. They've got a whole different kind of market. Like one of the viewers said, it's like a Jeep Cherokee compared to a Grand Cherokee. It's still super functional, and they're definitely have a strong following and a great aftermarket. So just remember to follow along if you want to see some more Rover content. We'll be doing some more on this Disco and some of the other classics we have. So we appreciate the following so far, and keep it up and comment with any questions. Thanks, guys.